Angela was the only child of her wealthy parents, who loved her dearly but had a peculiar way of showing it. They never provided for her basic needs and never bothered to ask what she wanted or needed. To them, Angela felt bitter about it. She longed for her parents to care about her feelings and desires, not just her academic performance. She wished she could talk to them about her needs, but they seemed too busy with their business and saving money. Angela lived in a grand estate with her parents, but her life was far from luxurious. She wore tattered and patched clothes, which made her stand out in a bad way. Other kids in the estate would tease her, calling her names and telling her she looked like a beggar. One day, Angela came home in tears, her eyes red from crying. Her mother noticed her distress and asked what was wrong. Angela explained that the other kids had laughed at her clothes, and she felt embarrassed, but instead of sympathy, her mother offered words of stern advice. "Angela, don't mind them. Life isn't about wearing good clothes, it's about making money and being successful. You'll wear those clothes until you achieve your goals. Forget about clothes and focus on your studies and managing your life." Angela looked at her mother, feeling frustrated and hurt. "But mother, I barely wear good clothes, I barely eat good food. It's not like the money isn't there. You people just keep telling me to manage, manage, manage. For how long will I continue to manage? I'm the only child of a rich parent, can't I enjoy some of the luxuries?" Her mother's expression turned cold, and she glared at Angela. "If you ever talk to me like that again, I'll beat the hell out of you," she said, her voice firm and menacing. With that, she turned and walked out of Angela's bedroom, leaving her daughter in tears. Angela cried bitterly, feeling like she was living in a nightmare. She wished she didn't have to endure the pain of being mocked by her peers and the strict rules of her parents. She longed for a life where she could enjoy the privileges of being a rich parent's child, but it seemed like that was just a distant dream. One day, Angela was sitting in her classroom when she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her stomach. When she stood up to go outside, she discovered that her underwear was stained with blood. Confused and worried, she covered herself and went to her class teacher. "Ma'am, I need your help," Angela said, her voice shaking. Her teacher looked at her with concern. "What's wrong, Angela?" Angela explained the situation, and her teacher nodded understandingly. "You've started your menstruation, Angela. I'll give you a pad to use for now. When you get home, tell your mother to get you some sanitary pads and teach you how to use them." Angela took the pad, feeling a mix of emotions. When she got home, she approached her mother and explained what had happened. Her mother looked surprised but then smiled. "Ah, Angela, you've become a woman now," she said. "But don't worry, we can use some of my old wrappers. I'll cut them into pieces, and you can use them as pads." "It's a good way to save money." Angela's eyes widened in shock. "But ma'am, my teacher said I should use sanitary pads." "It's not safe to use cloth pieces." Her mother's expression turned stern. "Your teacher doesn't give you money, Angela. We have to be economical. Using cloth pieces is a better way to manage our resources." Angela felt tears welling up in her eyes. "But mother, why can't we just buy sanitary pads? It's not that expensive." Her mother looked at her straight in the eyes. "Because, Angela, life is all about managing and being successful. You have to learn to make do with what you have. Now, let's use the cloth pieces, and we'll worry about sanitary pads later." Angela broke down in tears, feeling frustrated and helpless. "Mother, how could you do this? Can't you see that I'm suffering?" Her mother's expression remained firm. "I'm doing this for your own good, Angela. You need to learn to manage and be responsible." From that day on, Angela used cloth pieces to manage her menstruation, feeling miserable and helpless. Months went by, and her underwear became worn out and tattered. One early morning, she approached her parents in their bedroom, hoping to find a solution. "Mother, Father, my underwears are all worn out," Angela said, trying to hold back tears. "I need new ones." Her parents looked at each other and smiled. Her father spoke up, "When I was your age, I didn't have the luxuries you have. I used to make do with what I had. You need to learn to manage, Angela. You can use the ones you have and have them sewn or patched. That's how you'll learn to be responsible." Angela felt a surge of frustration. "But father, I'm your only child. Can't you just buy me new underwears?" "I'm tired of managing and economizing all the time." Her parents' expressions turned stern. "You're not going to learn how to manage if you're always given what you want," her mother said. "You need to understand the value of money. Now, get out of our room and stop talking nonsense." Angela's eyes welled up with tears as she looked at her parents. "Are you people serious? You're my parents, and you're supposed to take care of me, not make me suffer." Her parents' anger grew, and they ordered her out of the room. "You don't know the value of hard work and money. You're just a child, and you don't understand. Get out." Angela left the room, feeling defeated and heartbroken. She went to her bedroom and broke down in tears, crying uncontrollably. She felt like she was all alone, and no one understood her pain. Angela sat alone in her classroom one day, long after the others had gone out for break. The bright midday sun filtered in through the windows, but it didn't warm the cold ache in her chest. Her head was bowed over her desk, and quiet sobs shook her shoulders. Tears stained the page of her notebook. She kept asking herself the same question, over and over again: why did I have to come from such stingy parents? She remembered the night before, how she had asked her mom for a little money to get new shoes. Her old ones were falling apart at the seams. But as always, she was told to manage what she had. Her dad barely looked up from his phone before muttering something about money not growing on trees. She hated the way it made her feel, small, less than others. A little kindness. A little money to enjoy life like the other girls in school, Angela? A gentle voice said. It was Emily. She was one of those girls who always seemed to have it together: neat hair, new clothes, and that easy smile that made people want to be around her. Angela quickly wiped her face and tried to look away, embarrassed. She pulled up the chair beside her and sat down. "I heard you crying," Emily said softly. "And I know it's not my business, but... Are you okay?" Angela hesitated, then shook her head. "I'm just tired. Of everything. My parents. They don't understand. They never give me anything. I feel like I'm always begging just to have the basics." Emily listened quietly, her eyes thoughtful. Then she leaned in a little closer. "Look, I've been there," she said. "But there are people out there who can help. People who actually give money to girls like us. You don't have to keep struggling like this, Angela." Angela blinked, unsure what she meant. "What kind of people?" Emily smiled, but it was the kind that held something behind it. "Let me introduce you. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. Just meet them. Talk. They like helping girls who are smart and pretty." After school that day, Angela walked alongside Emily down the dusty road that led away from the school. "You sure about this?" Angela asked, her voice low. Emily glanced over. "I wouldn't bring you if I wasn't. Just be polite, listen to him. He's nice, and he doesn't force anything. He just likes helping girls who are going through stuff. Angela didn't reply. Her mind was spinning, this wasn't like her. But the thought of going home again, of wearing the same worn-out underwear, of feeling like a shadow among her classmates, it was too much. They stopped outside a sleek black car parked near a quiet corner store. Leaning against it was a man who looked to be in his late 70s. "This is Mr. Cola," Emily said with a casual smile. Angela nodded shyly, her arms crossed over her chest. Cola smiled back, easy and smooth. "You must be Angela. Emily told me you're smart. Pretty too." Angela looked away. "I help girls like you," he said. "I can give you money. Clothes. Whatever you need to feel comfortable. But I expect a little something in return. Just time. Closeness." Angela's throat tightened. She knew exactly what he meant. Her heart thudded with a mixture of fear and desperation. Her mind screamed to walk away, but her need whispered louder. She thought about the torn strap on her bra. The hole in her socks. The ache of always feeling less okay. She said quietly, "Just this once." Cola smiled again, reaching into his car and pulling out an envelope. "That's a good girl." As Angela took the money, a storm began to gather in her chest. She had what she needed now, but at what cost? "Angela," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "can you meet me at Paradise Hotel after school tomorrow? I have a surprise for you." Angela blinked, surprised by the request. "A surprise?" she echoed, unsure whether to be curious or cautious. "Yes," he replied with a small smile. "Just trust me. You'll like it." She hesitated briefly, then nodded slowly. "Okay. I'll come." As she walked home that day, Angela couldn't stop thinking about it. What kind of surprise could Mr. Cola possibly have for her? Was it something about the envelope he had given her? Or was it something more personal? The thoughts swirled in her mind like a whirlwind, and though a part of her was excited, another part was deeply unsure. Still, she couldn't deny that curiosity had taken root. The next day after school, Angela went to the hotel. She walked slowly down the hallway, feeling nervous and unsure. Her heart was heavy. She hadn't slept well the night before. She kept thinking about what had happened, and it made her feel ashamed. But something inside her still made her go. When she reached the door, it was already a little open. Chief Cola had been waiting for her. She pushed the door and stepped inside. Chief Cola stood up from the chair and smiled. He walked over and kissed her on the cheek. Angela froze. She didn't like the way it felt. "My beautiful Angela," Chief Cola said softly. "You look even better today." Angela looked down. She didn't want to look into his eyes. His words didn't make her feel happy. They made her feel small and confused. "You're really something special," he said again. "You make me proud." Angela didn't feel special. She felt dirty and lost. She held her backpack tightly, trying not to cry. "I can't stay long," she whispered. "There's no rush," Chief Cola said. "You deserve to be treated well." Angela forced herself to smile, but her heart was hurting. Then, Chief stepped closer and started touching her breast. Angela moved away quickly, feeling scared. "Stop," she said, her voice low. Chief's face changed. He didn't smile this time. "Don't act surprised," he said. "You think all that money and food from yesterday was free?" Angela stood still, shocked. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "I helped you, and now it's your turn," Chief said firmly. Angela didn't know what to do. Her body was frozen. Her mind was spinning. She had never felt so confused and ashamed in her life. She begged Chief Cola, tears running down her cheeks, "Please. I haven't done this before," she said, crying. "Please don't do this." But Chief Cola didn't listen. He only cared about what he wanted. He ignored her words, her pain, and her tears. When it was over, Angela sat quietly on the bed, her whole body shaking. Her heart felt broken. She pulled her knees close and cried bitterly. Her tears soaked her dress. She felt dirty, used, and ashamed. She wished she had never come to that place. She wished she had said no. Chief Cola got up and dressed quickly. He didn't say sorry. He didn't ask if she was okay. Instead, he pulled out a box from his bag and handed her a new Android phone. "Take this," he said coldly. "Call me if you ever need money. But only if you're ready to do what I want." Angela looked at the phone in her hand, but it felt heavy like a curse. Chief Cola didn't wait for her to answer. He opened the door and left the hotel room without looking back, without saying anything kind or comforting. Angela sat there, alone and in pain. She hugged herself tightly, the silence in the room louder than anything. She had never felt so lost in her life. Angela took a deep breath and looked at herself in the hotel mirror. Her eyes were tired, and her face was pale, but something inside her told her she couldn't stay there any longer. She had to go home. Slowly, she gathered her things. Her hands trembled as she wiped her face and fixed her clothes. She cleaned herself up as best as she could. With one last glance around the room, she quietly opened the door and stepped out, her heart pounding in her chest. She moved quickly, hoping no one would see her. By the time she reached her parents' house, it was already late. Angela tiptoed inside, careful not to make any noise. The house was dark. She held her breath as she passed her mother's door. Afraid it might creak or that her mom would suddenly call out to her. But nothing happened. She made it to her room, closed the door behind her, and leaned against it, her heart still racing. The next morning, her mother acted like everything was normal. She smiled and greeted Angela like she always did. Angela watched her, confused and surprised. Had she not noticed? Did she not suspect anything? For the first time in days, Angela felt a small wave of relief. Maybe, just maybe, she had a chance to start again. The next morning, Angela got ready for school. Her body still ached, and her heart felt heavy, but she forced herself to go. She knew she had to act normal. At school, she looked for Emily, her closest friend. When she found her behind the school building during break, she pulled her aside. "Emily," Angela said in a low voice, "I saw Chief Cola yesterday." "I did what you told me." Emily's eyes widened. "You mean, you slept with him?" Angela nodded slowly. "Yes. But it hurt, Emily. I didn't know it would feel like that. I felt so much pain. After it happened, I just sat there, not knowing what to do." Emily looked at her with soft eyes and held her hand. "Angela, it was your first time. It's always painful the first time. But don't worry, it won't be like that again. If you keep doing it, your body will get used to it." Angela looked down, her eyes filled with confusion and sadness. "I felt so ashamed. But I needed the money. I didn't know what else to do." Emily smiled gently. "That's why I told you about it. You're not alone. Now at least you can take care of yourself. No one else is going to do it for us." Angela felt a small tear slip down her cheek. "Thank you, Emily. For helping me. I don't know what I'd do without you. Emily hugged her tight. You'll be fine, Angela. We both will. Starting from that day, Angela began to use the phone Chief Cola gave her, but she did it secretly. She hid it under her bed or deep in her school bag so her parents wouldn't find it. At first, she was scared and unsure, but little by little, she got used to it. Soon, she became an expert in dealing with men. She learned how to talk to them, how to act, and what to say to get what she wanted. More men started sending her money, buying her gifts, and taking her out. Angela was making a lot of money from them. With the money, she started taking care of herself. She bought nice clothes that made her feel confident. She also bought good underwear, something she never had before. She no longer had to beg her parents for pads or other small things. Before, whenever she asked her parents for money to buy sanitary pads or new clothes, they would tell her to manage. They would say, life is all about management. Learn how to suffer small. But Angela was tired of suffering. Now, she didn't need to ask anyone for help. She had her own money, and for the first time in her life, she felt in control. Angela's life started changing fast, but her parents didn't notice anything. Even when she wore new dresses, fancy shoes, or stylish bags, they didn't ask her where she got them from. They were always too busy with their business, running around from morning till night, and never paid attention to what she wore or how she looked. Sometimes, Angela would sit alone in her bedroom and just stare at the wall. She would think deeply and wonder what kind of parents she had. How can they not see anything? She would ask herself. How can they not even care? She remembered the days she used to cry and beg them for small things, like pads or underwear, and they would tell her to manage. Now, she had everything she wanted, and yet, they didn't even notice the change. Tears would fill her eyes, and her heart would ache. She felt like a stranger in her own home. What kind of parents are these? She would whisper. Do they even love me? In those moments, Angela felt regret. Regret that she had parents who didn't care enough to ask questions. She wished things had been different. Sometimes, she even wished she had different parents altogether. Angela kept sleeping with different men and made a lot of money, but one day, Angela woke up feeling very weak. Her body was hot, and she couldn't even stand up from her bed. She felt pain all over and knew something was wrong. She told her parents how she was feeling, but they gave her some paracetamol and said it was just ordinary malaria. They told her to rest and that she would soon get better. Angela didn't feel better. Days passed, and she kept getting worse. She begged her parents to take her to the hospital so a doctor could run some tests. But they refused. They said there was no money and that things were really hard. They told her to manage at home. Angela felt so bad. She was in pain, weak, and scared. She started thinking about her life and the choices she had made. She wished someone would help her before it was too late. Angela sat on her bed, thinking hard about what to do next. She didn't want things to get worse, so she decided to call her friend Emily. Maybe Emily could help her get some good medicine from the pharmacy. The next day, Angela's parents left early for work, as usual. Once the house was quiet, Angela picked up her phone and secretly called Emily. She spoke in a low voice and asked her to come over as soon as possible. Emily could hear the worry in Angela's voice. Without wasting time, she rushed to Angela's house, curious and concerned about what had happened and why Angela had called so suddenly. As soon as Emily arrived at Angela's house, she saw how weak Angela looked. Her face was pale, and she could barely stand. Emily became very worried and quickly said, "Angela, we need to go to the hospital. You need to run some tests and find out what's wrong." But Angela shook her head slowly and said, "No, I can't. My parents are very stingy. If they find out I went to the hospital, they will ask where I got the money from." Emily held her hand gently and replied, "Don't worry, Angela. They won't find out. I'll take care of everything. Your health is more important right now." Angela looked at her friend for a moment. After a short pause, she finally agreed. She slowly got up and went to dress. A few minutes later, the two girls left the house and made their way to the hospital. When they arrived at the hospital, Emily led Angela to see the doctor. After asking her a few questions, the doctor ran some tests on her. Angela and Emily waited nervously. After some time, the doctor came back with the results. She looked at Angela and said gently, "You are 4 weeks pregnant." Angela froze. Her eyes widened in shock. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. She sat there, speechless. Emily turned to her with surprise and asked, "Angela, how could you let this happen? How could you make such a mistake?" Angela didn't say a word. She just looked down and then broke into tears. She felt scared, ashamed, and confused. Emily moved closer, wrapped her arms around her, and said softly, "It's okay. Don't cry. We'll take care of this. We'll get rid of the pregnancy." Angela wiped her tears and said in a shaky voice, "But I don't know any abortion pills." Emily looked at her and said calmly, "Don't worry. I'll take care of everything." On their way back home, Angela and Emily stopped at a nearby pharmacy. Emily went inside and bought some abortion pills. When they got home, Angela took the drugs, hoping everything would be over soon. After some time, Emily stood up to leave. She looked at Angela and said, "Please take care of yourself. I'll be calling you to check on you." Angela nodded and thanked her as Emily left the house. 2 days later, Angela noticed something strange. There were no signs that the pills had worked. Instead of feeling weak or sick, she started feeling stronger. She was confused and didn't understand what was going on. Thinking maybe the pills didn't work, Angela decided to take them again. But the more she took, the more weight she added. Her body was changing, and nothing made sense to her anymore. Worried, Angela decided to call Emily again and asked her to help get more drugs. She quickly went to get another set of abortion pills, a different type this time, for Angela to take again. Angela kept on taking the drugs, just like the Emily had told her. Every day, she felt her body changing. She was adding weight, but it didn't make her look bad. In fact, she was becoming more beautiful. Her skin glowed, and her cheeks became round and fresh. People around her started saying, "Angela, you're looking good these days." But they didn't know why. Only she knew what was really going on inside her. Angela was scared. She thought her parents would notice something. She was sure they would find out she was pregnant. But to her surprise, they didn't seem to notice anything. They just went on with their normal lives like nothing had changed. One night, Angela couldn't sleep. She sat up in bed and stared into the darkness. Her heart was full of confusion and anger. "How can my parents be so blind?" she thought. "Can't they see I'm changing? Can't they feel something is wrong?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. She wished she had never come into the world through them. "If they really loved me, they would know something is wrong," she whispered to herself. She lay back down, hugging her pillow, her mind full of fear and sadness. Angela's classmates soon started to notice some changes in her. Some of them whispered that maybe she was pregnant. Others said maybe her stingy parents had finally started giving her money and taking care of her. Everywhere Angela went in school, people were gossiping about her. Some laughed behind her back. Some stared at her belly. Angela felt so bad. Her heart was heavy every day. She didn't know who to talk to anymore. Even Emily, her best friend, called her aside one day. "Angela," Emily said, "I don't know what else to say. Maybe you should just keep the pregnancy." But Angela shook her head quickly. "No," she said. "I can't. I can't bear the shame. I'll die if everybody finds out." Emily sighed and looked away. "Then don't ever talk to me about this again," she said. "I don't want to get involved anymore." Angela stood there, shocked. She felt like the whole world had turned against her. Her best friend had left her. The gossip in school was getting worse. And she still had no one to talk to. After some months, Angela's stomach started growing. It was now clear that something was wrong. Angela became even more scared. She tried to hide it with bigger clothes, but the shape was changing. She couldn't hide it for long. One faithful morning, her mother noticed. She looked at Angela carefully and said, "Angela, have you started eating too much? You're growing out of shape." Angela couldn't hold it anymore. She broke down in tears. She cried so hard, her body shook. Her mother was surprised. "Why are you crying?" she asked. Angela stood up and looked her mother in the face. "I'm crying because I'm disappointed in you," she said angrily. "You are my mother, but you didn't even notice I was pregnant. I have waited and waited for you or Daddy to see what's going on, but both of you are just too busy and too uncaring." Her mother stood there, shocked. Her eyes opened wide. "What did you just say?" she asked in a shaking voice. "I said I'm pregnant." Angela shouted. "Your daughter is pregnant, and you didn't even know. That's how careless and distant you've become." Her mother held her chest. She could not believe what she was hearing. Her own daughter? Pregnant? It felt like a bad dream. Angela's mother turned to her angrily. "How long have you been seeing a man behind my back?" she shouted. "What led you into such a shameful act? Who is responsible for this pregnancy?" Angela's tears flowed freely down her face. She was shaking with anger and pain. "Didn't you notice my new dress and underwear?" she cried. "Where do you think I got them from? Is it not because you and Daddy can't provide for me? That's why I started sleeping with different old men." Her mother's eyes widened in shock. Angela continued, her voice full of pain. "To make everything worse, I don't even know who got me pregnant. I have slept with so many men. I can't tell which one is the father." Her mother stepped back slowly and held her mouth in shame. Tears filled her eyes. "I have failed as a mother," she said quietly. "This is my consequence. My punishment." She sat down slowly, weak and broken, unable to speak further. The house was silent except for the sound of both mother and daughter crying. After a few moments of silence, Angela cleared her throat and looked at her mother. "Mom," she began, her voice shaking, "if you and Dad had given me everything I needed, I wouldn't have fallen into the hands of those old men. You always told me to manage, but you never understood how hard it was. You're not me." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. She reached for Angela's hand. "I'm so sorry, my daughter," she said softly. "Your father and I didn't mean to hurt you." We just didn't want to spend too much because we suffered a lot to get where we are today. Then her mother took a deep breath and said, maybe we should go for an abortion. Angela quickly shook her head. No, Mom. I've tried so many abortion pills already. Nothing worked. Maybe it's not meant to be. I've decided to keep the baby. There was silence again. Then her mother pulled her into a hug and whispered, "Please forgive me, Angela. I didn't know you were going through so much. We'll be here for you now. You're not alone anymore." Angela nodded slowly, tears rolling down her cheeks. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Angela's parents started treating her very well. They no longer shouted at her or ignored her. Instead, they cared for her deeply and did everything to make her feel loved. To make sure she wasn't stressed, they even hired a maid to help with the housework. Angela felt very happy and surprised by the change. For the first time in her life, she felt the presence and love of her parents. She no longer felt alone. As months passed, Angela gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. The whole family was filled with joy. Her father was especially happy and thanked Angela over and over again. He said he was proud to have a grandson who would carry his name and inherit his legacy. Later on, Angela resumed her education. She left her baby in the care of her mother and the housemaid, who loved the baby so much and took very good care of him. Her parents even bought her a brand new car to show how grateful they were for giving them a male child. One quiet afternoon, Angela's mother sat in the sitting room, deep in thought. She looked around and sighed. Then she said, "All mothers should take care of their daughters and give them whatever they need to be happy. If not, they may live to face a bigger and painful life later."